I want to be thankful for everything I have. And I want to say to other people, you know what, it's okay to have challenges. It's okay to be in whatever's going on, but deal with it, right? And if you can't do it alone, reach out, because so many people are just waiting to hear that you need a hand, and they will be there. They just don't know. They honestly just don't know.
Welcome back to another episode of the Succeed Against the Odds show. And here today with me, I have Gina Best. I totally love your last name. It is so awesome. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
And welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Can you fill in for our audience who is, I'm not going to give you an introduction. I want you to introduce yourself to our audience and share with us what it is that you do. What is your area of expertise?
I am a kick-ass business coach. My specialty is business life combo, mainly get the results in business so you can have the results in life. I believe that, yeah, you need the business side to build the business of your dreams, but you also need to deal with all the personal stuff. So we do a bit of everything. My official title is coach, speaker, no shit taker. And I do believe that you can't do it alone, and so many people try to, and you need a team, and I'm a big part of that team for a lot of people. I'm not everybody's flavor, I get that, but the clients that I work with and the people that migrate to me, the relationship is amazing, and that's why I do it. I do believe life is far too short, and people forget to live. It's all about getting through the day, getting through the week, surviving versus thriving. And that's really important to me.
So what led you to become a business coach?
Well, it's been a very long journey. I started a mortgage brokerage business actually I looked it up the other day. I actually officially started the business 11 years ago. And at the time, that was the baby I could grow. My husband and I tried to have kids when we first got married and it didn't go so well. So I needed something to put all my effort into. So I started this business, and I kicked ass. Like, I grew it. You know, last year we did $140 million. We funded over $140 million. So that's where all my focus went. But then about 4 years ago, something wasn't right. And, you know, at the end of the day, I remember sitting in my office and a shadow fell across my desk at the end of the day. And I thought, shit, is this it? Because you know what? This wasn't enough. And then I had that whole internal battle that most women have. Oh, you want more? Well, you're selfish. You know, you have kids, you have a husband, you have great friends. How can you want more? And that's when I realized, like, it wasn't enough.
So what was not enough? It wasn't obviously the financial part that was enough. What was it they were saying this was not enough?
Business, just having a mortgage business just having a business that there was nothing of me in it. It was all about, over the years, it was all about building the business, helping clients, absolutely. But it was a very cookie cutter business in my world. On the side, I did tons of networking, tons of community involvement. I was an unofficial coach, business coach for years. And then I had the opportunity to pick up what it's called Incentive now. It was called the Referral Institute, the license for the area. And I thought, you know, something different, because I knew I needed to change. I knew that what I was doing for mortgage clients wasn't enough. It wasn't feeding my soul anymore. So then a friend suggested that I do this program. And I'll never forget it, because he's like, you should do it. And I'm like, no. He's like, yes, no, yes, no. And finally I said I'd apply just to get him out of my office. And it was called the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership. And literally I applied to get him out of my office. And I thought, okay, I'll apply. You know what? Speaking skills, could always use them. I'm originally a Newfoundlander. I used to talk way faster than I do now.
You're a Newfie?
I'm a Newfie.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I'm a Newfie. So I was a mile a minute. And, you know, leadership skills, I was getting ready to start a new business. I could always use leadership skills. The authentic word in the middle, yeah, I just pretended that wasn't there for some reason. So I did this amazing program, and it was 20 years of personal development in 8 months. So it kind of shook me. It was like one of those snow globes. It shook me up, and then things kind of settled in a totally different order. And I realized that I needed to do something that fed my soul, and it was that was the coaching part. And it's not just, I coach, yeah, lots of business people, but I also coach some people on, career transition, stuff like that. But it's not the actual nuts and bolts of it. It's the relationship. I see people a different way. And it's about letting go of the bullshit that gets in the way every day and getting to the core of the matter. And, I used to say to people, I'm an open book. But I realized for all of those years, you had to know the right questions. If you didn't ask the right questions, I didn't volunteer or anything. And I was this big personality. I did tons of networking. I was out there. Everybody thought I was, this super outgoing social person. And I wore it really well. I had really bright hair. I have big personality. But I didn't let anybody get close because there was so much hurt in the background. There was so much grief in the background from losses that I hadn't dealt with. I just kept everybody. I would just wow you with my hair and with my dress, and no one will ask me personal questions.
So that was a cover up.
Oh, totally. So the program started the change of everything. I still have the mortgage business. Will always have it. I delegate much more. But I'm a business coach. I'm all about multiple businesses, and the coaching side is where my heart is, and the speaking side. So the last 3 years. Huge amount of changes. 20 years of personal development, 8 months. In the May of that year, my brother died really suddenly. My best friend got diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. My husband and I decided to call it quits after 17 years. And we're doing it different. We're friends, we co-parent, and we live together. And I kind of thought everything was settling. The mortgage business was good. The coaching business I was building. I was speaking to groups that I was really enjoying. I'll never forget, it was last summer, and I was getting ready to go to the E-Women's Conference and coach in Dallas, and I was so excited. And I got the routine card in the mail for my mammogram. No big deal. I actually put it on my desk at work and called that day and had an appointment and went and had my mammogram. And they called me back the second time, didn't think anything of it. My very first mammogram, I did all the steps. I did the mammogram on Tuesday. Thursday, and you remember this day because you were supposed to have lunch, I got the call at 11 saying, yes, we'd like you to have a biopsy. Oh, and by the way, we're going to do it today. And that day I knew from that day, so then 2 weeks later I heard that I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that day stays with me almost more than the day I heard the news, because all the way to the hospital, and it was about 25-minute drive, all I could think was, is this the lesson I need, that what I have to say is important?
Wow.
And that over and over, because I forget sometimes what I have to say is important. I forget that when I speak to an audience, or even when I speak just a group, there's always someone who needs to hear what you have to say. So got diagnosed with breast cancer in July. I've had 4 surgeries in the last year. First 2 surgeries was trying to get the margins. The third surgery, I actually had a mastectomy, partial on one side. And then I started reconstruction, which was a whole different ballgame. And then I just had my 4th surgery about 6 weeks ago. And apparently there's 1 more to come. Now, the really great news is that when I had my mastectomy and I released my breast, I released the cancer. So that's phenomenal. And it's interesting because you think when you hear the words you're cancer-free, everything goes back to normal, but there's no normal anymore. It's a new normal, and it's a new normal every day.
In what way?
Well, before you hear the words you have cancer, you go, I was that person that, oh, it'll never be me. What are the odds? Not that I was, being conceited or anything, but, what are the odds? You never think of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around it because super healthy. I'm a weightlifter. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I lifted 385 pounds.
You're like a record breaker.
I'm working on it. My goal is a 400-pound deadlift. I didn't have a symptom. I didn't have a lump. I didn't have anything. And then they're telling me that I have cancer and I have to let go of part of my body. And it's a part of my body that I'm quite attached to, because not being able to have kids, that part of my anatomy didn't work. So, something women could do for, millions of years, I couldn't. And now you want to take something that makes me a woman? Oh my goodness, it was so crazy. And then every day things are different. And I'm very careful with my language. I don't believe in right and wrong. I believe in different. And you have a choice to make different every day. So when you deal with a cancer diagnosis, for me, it's so big, you don't know what to do. And women especially are wired to fix things, control things. You know, we can figure our way out of most things, but this you can't. And the fight that goes on of, oh my God, what do I do? How do I deal with this? You know, it's so big. It sucks the air out of your breath. Like I'm not sure, I'm not explaining it very well, but you have this diagnosis that you don't know if you're going to be sick, not sick, live, die. Didn't help that I watched my best friend go through it, not, 6 months before she did a major operation and she was really ill. And then the other thing for me that hit was the guilt. Francesca, there was huge guilt because I had a little cancer. My best friend had a big cancer. I got lucky. I had a mastectomy and didn't have to have treatment. Another close friend of mine had a mastectomy and had to have treatment. So all of a sudden I have this little cancer and these have these big cancers. And why would I have a little cancer? Why did they have a big cancer? Oh my God, how can I feel bad because I have a little cancer, whereas they have a big cancer? And this goes, I know it sounds ridiculous. And never once did my friend say to me, oh, you have a little cancer. You shouldn't feel this way. She was just really sad that I had to deal with it. But it brings up so many, it spins you out of control on things. And you have to stop and ground yourself. And it was exhausting because there's this battle for control going on, to control your life, to control how things go. And it was my mentor who actually said to me, what if you just embrace the unknown? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, just embrace the unknown. And then we talked about it, and how to embrace the unknown. It means getting up every day and truthfully putting one foot in front of the other. I didn't make a lot of plans last year. Like I might have been able to plan an afternoon or a couple days later. Right now I book my schedule about 2 weeks. Last year I didn't do that, right? Or I did do it, and people knew that depending on the day I might have to change it. People treat you differently when they know, and depending on the age group depends on how people treat you. It was really interesting. When I started telling people, you have to manage their expectations, it was the most amazing dynamic, because I would tell them and then I would have to see their reaction, engage it, and manage it. And then again, depending on your age, depended on the reaction. Because some people who were older, who've known cancer for 20, 30, 40 years, they know what it was like 20 years ago when people got diagnosed, and they carried that with you. Whereas people who are younger know somebody who's got diagnosed a couple of years ago and everything's great. So totally different outcomes. Got to the point, truthfully, it was so exhausting telling people. I made a video on Facebook. I didn't know how else to do it. And then
in the video you just explained.
I just explained what was going on, and it was, and I said in the video, if you're close to me and I haven't told you, please know it's not because I didn't want to. It was so hard to tell people.
Especially when you have to repeat, if you have a lot of connections like you do, having to repeat it over and over. So it's almost like reinforcing a negative that you really don't want to, because you want to focus on it differently than having to say all that's going wrong.
It was really, I didn't expect it to be as challenging as it was. And then the outcome was really interesting as well. I had huge support from a lot of people. And I'm very blessed that I have some really great people in my tribe who were awesome. But then some people some of my friends that I were really close to couldn't deal with it. So I don't want to say lost. A few friends and our paths separated, some quietly and nicely, and some with a really big bang. It was really interesting. And I know now that had nothing to do with me. It had to do with their experiences, what they could deal with. And that was a lesson I learned all last year. It had nothing to do with me. When I didn't hear from somebody, it wasn't because they didn't care. It means they've got stuff going on, and it's all about them, and that's the way it should be. So it was I learned a lot of things, and I'm sure there's more lessons in it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. The 4 surgery part, like I have a 5th surgery that I was supposed to have, and I got to tell you, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I can do it one more time. The last surgery wasn't as good as the first few. And my doctor said it's quite common at this point that you'll be done. And then there's the whole...
This is part of the reconstruction.
And then there's the whole, oh, it looks great. Yeah. In a dress, it looks great. In a bra, it looks great. Even on its own, it's not bad. It doesn't have a nipple, so it's not really a boob. And it's interesting because if it doesn't have a nipple, it's not really boob. I have no problem showing it to you if you want to see it, because it's not really boob.
It's okay. We can't show the something.
No, I know, but it's interesting how that nipple makes the difference. But
they can reconstruct that though.
Totally, that's the 5th surgery if I choose to do it. But it's interesting because it doesn't feel part of me.
Interesting.
It's part of me, but it doesn't feel part of me. And for a while, I've just changed my thinking about it, and it actually makes me more me. It's a bit more of Gina. It adds to my character, and I probably will have a great big tattoo done over it eventually. But I haven't quite. I'm talking to it. I talk to it every day when I massage it through what I'm supposed to do, and every day I'm a little bit more. It's a little bit more accepting. It's just still weird, right? It's still weird that I look in the mirror and all of this has happened, and I didn't have a symptom.
It's a new you.
Oh, it's a new me. So that's what I mean about the new normal. You know, because it's new me. The normal that I had 18 months ago, whatever normal is gone, and every day I feel a little bit more like me, but it's an acceptance thing. And after this surgery, the most recent one, I had a big reaction, and I kind of makes me laugh a little bit. So I had the surgery on a Tuesday. It was in August. It was still really hot. My doctor said to me, I won't make you wear the bandage till next week when I see you. You know what it's going to look like, so you can take your bandage off on Saturday. Thank goodness, because it was that little bit of a heat wave. So Saturday morning I got ready. I said to my ex, you know, can you just make sure the boys don't come up? Because I needed to do it myself first. And they didn't need to see it quite yet. And I took off the bandage. And it's funny because I knew what it was going to look like. She went in through the side, so there was no change in the front of it. She went in through the side when she replaced the implants. My other side got a little bit of a lift because it wasn't quite right. So I knew exactly what it was going to look like. And I looked in the mirror and I cried my eyes out. Because apparently I was holding out hope that I was going to have those, you know, amazing boobs from those magazines. And I didn't realize that. And I do think now I can look back at it and think it's just all part of the process. Because when I had the mastectomy, I couldn't look at it very much, truthfully. And because it was the beginning of the reconstruction, because I had a fillable implant, it was always in progress. So this wasn't the end result. So it wasn't going to look like this. So I didn't have any kind of reaction to it. So I do think maybe the reaction I had this time is what some people have when they have the mastectomy. And I had 2 weeks of, I watched too much Netflix. I stayed at home a lot. Ate a lot of comfort food.
Kind of escaping.
I had to escape, and I had to just kind of, I'm a retreater when I need to process things. And now it's much better. I feel much, much better the last couple of weeks. And it's becoming a part of me slowly but surely. But I do want to talk about it more because there's a really interesting dynamic around, don't ignore the card that comes in the mail, first of all, because so many people do. It's, you know, having a mammogram, depending on the size of your boobs, it might hurt, it might not, just do it. Because it saved my life.
Saves your life.
It saved my life, because if I had ignored that and waited 2 more years, this outcome would be completely different. And the night before I got my results, I went to a networking event and ran into a lady. She was a photographer. And somehow this came up in conversation. She told me that the year before she had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. And she was really angry that the focus was more on reconstruction than the cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Who was putting the focus on
the medical team? That's the way she came. She said it to me, and she was actually there's quite a lot of emotion behind it. And for me, it was the opposite, because I was told in the beginning that I do not qualify for reconstruction because in British Columbia, it's based on your body mass index, and you need a 30% body mass index or less. So my first 2 surgeries, after this, when I came to the second surgery, she said to me, my surgeon said, you can have a choice of doing a surgery like we just did or having a mastectomy. And I said to her, well, can we talk about what reconstruction would look like? And she actually said to me, you don't qualify. And she explained it to me, and I said, well, then I guess I'm having a second surgery like the first. Then when it came to having the third surgery and I had to have a mastectomy, I said, how can I have a mastectomy when I can't even have a conversation around reconstruction? She said to me, oh, you should just meet the plastic surgeon. Could that not have been the answer with surgery before? And I met the plastic surgeon, and she was amazing. Because on paper, I don't look great. But when she met me and realized, I go to the gym 4 days a week. I'm a super heavy lifter. I eat healthy. I do all the right things. So, the other moral of the story is fight for it. Like, if I had my time back, I would have asked to see the plastic surgeon the second time. I just didn't know. And always have a buddy with you every single time you go to the doctor.
Have that support.
Oh, God, because you don't remember anything. Right? So.
Yeah, because I'm guessing you had just been so much going on. I'm going to backtrack here for a second. I want to thank you for sharing this and for going into details. That experience of looking in the mirror and expecting something and it wasn't, even though you were told. Because I think a lot of us, including myself, have this idea, if we're not informed, that reconstruction, you're going to look maybe even better than before, but you're actually saying, no, this is not the case.
No.
Is that ever the case?
I do think it is the case. For me, when you do reconstruction, there's 3 choices. One choice is, are you ready? They take a piece from somewhere else in your body, usually here, and they pop it up through and pop it out. The other one is, that's one. The other one is that they can leave the skin and you can have the implant and they just take the breast tissue out. Or the third one is what I had, and that's the implant underneath my pec. The reason we picked this one is, 1, it kept me out of the gym for the least amount of time, and 2, because of the kind of cancer I had, they took most of my breast tissue. So there was no tissue there to put an implant under. I have a friend who, when she had her mastectomy Valentine's Day. She instantly had a full-on implant, and she still had everything. I think she actually even saved the nipple.
They did it all in one.
All in one, but that wasn't an option for me to have that kind of one. So, and I am going to write I said it's going to be a book. I don't think it'll be a book. It'll be a paper about all of the things you need to know that no one tells you. So the most recent one, a couple Fridays ago, I'm like, something seems different. And I looked in the mirror and thought, okay, so the protocol for scars is you wear 3M tape, like Band-Aid tape, for 3 months on your scars. So I had a scar underneath here, so there was 3M tape down here. And I realized it's kind of up here now.
The tape?
Or the tape. The tape. So I'm thinking, no, the tape didn't move. The scar moved up, and I'm thinking, is my implant falling out?
Oh.
So I looked at it, that was a Friday, and over the weekend I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel like it's lower. So I called my doctor on Monday, and I sent some pictures over. And amazing, amazing doctor and support team. So Melissa, my girl, she says, she cuts back to me on Tuesday and says, the doctor's super pleased with it. It's just the way it's supposed to be. I'm like, she's like, hey, do you want to come in? I'm like, yeah, I want to come in. So I go in, and they're like, oh, it's perfect. It's supposed to do that. And I thought, could you warn a girl that it's going to fall an inch or 2? And it's not falling out the bottom. So I have a list of things like that. Because they just, not that they were phenomenal. Like, I can't say enough about, I went to Mount St. Joseph's in Vancouver. Their rapid access breast clinic, hands down, spectacular. The people, the surgeons, the doctors, like, I can't say enough. Like, all of this happened super fast. I mean, it was amazing when you talk to people in other provinces who've gone through it. Amazing service, amazing people. But some things they just don't think to tell you. So I have a list of those things. A lot of information.
Well, that's great to create that kind of resource to help other people, other women. Okay, now I'm going to go back to back to what you said earlier. You said that you took this course that was 20 years of personal development into 8 months, and you said it rattled you. So
snow globe. It shook me up.
It shook you up. Maybe that was the word. Anyway, but yes. So, what, why? Why
Okay.
did it rattle? What happened?
So,
what was this, what's the story there?
Oh, the story there.
Because here you are, super successful in your mortgage.
Super successful.
You know, as a mortgage broker.
Kicked ass. So I had it all. From the outside, I had super successful business. I have 2 amazing boys, great husband, lots of friends. Everything appeared to be fabulous. I couldn't stop Francesca. So I'd get up in the morning. I would network. Truthfully, I'm very involved in BNI and other networks. I would do 1 or 2 or 3 early mornings a week. We were very lucky we had a nanny.
What was pushing you so hard?
Right now, I'll get there.
Okay.
Worked all day, came home, made dinner, put the boys to bed, read a book a day, and I also did like sewing projects and stuff. I couldn't stop. I was always busy, had to fill my time.
How much did you sleep?
Oh, 6 hours-ish, 7 hours, depending on the day, 2, 3. I always had that drive of I couldn't stop, because I couldn't deal with my own emotions. So when I kind of glazed over, when my husband and I first got married, we wanted to have children more than anything, and didn't come natural to us. So we went to a fertility clinic, had a great fertility doctor, and I got really lucky, and I got pregnant with twins. I lost the first one at 9 weeks, and the second one at 18. And my world crumbled. And the following month, I was up all night and slept all day and didn't talk to anybody. And the dog and I would do adventures at night in the car. It was really interesting. And then I went back to work. I never once dealt with the grief, the loss, the anger, the hurt. My ex and I, we never once talked about it. The first time we talked about it was after the first boot camp of my speakers program. And that was almost 15 years. We got married in 97, so it was 98. And that was just the beginning. When I dealt with, I've had a lot of death, a lot of loss, and I just didn't deal with it. I just put it away and I just kept busy, because if I was busy enough, it never surfaced, because it was so painful. And at the time, it was so big, I was afraid if I ever stopped, it would engulf me. So I dealt with, luckily I had opened the door when I started the program, and the program was structured as a series of boot camps. But then I also saw my mentor one-on-one in between, thank goodness. Because if I hadn't, that we started in March, when my brother died in May, I don't know if I would have survived it. Because at least I had opened the door to be able to deal with my emotions. And like when my brother died, I actually talked about it. I spent time with my family and talked about it, whereas that's something I would never do. You know, I was the fixer that did everything, but I just stopped, and that's the biggest thing for me. Every day I have to, it's still a battle I struggle with, because I'm wired to go, but every day I make sure I have the time to stop and just journal or sit by myself, not numb, not with TV, not with radio, not with a book or a craft. I have to have that time to stop.
So you're actually facing it rather than escaping it through media and other distractions.
So my line is that I walk with grief. And I am an expert in grief, which I hate to admit, but it's true, and it's with me every day.
But you always look so happy.
But I am happy. But you know what grief is? People make grief out to be this awful, miserable, soul-sucking emotion, but it's not. You know, last night I was telling my mom's visiting, and I was telling my mom about when we had to put our dog down, our old guy, not that long ago. And my youngest son was there, and he's almost 10. And I was telling my mom about the day, and Tyson said to me, I don't want to hear this. It makes me sad. And I said, but Tyson, we feel sad, but let's talk about the joy he brought us. And he kind of looked at me. If you don't feel the grief, if you don't feel the loss and the sadness and work through those emotions, you can't feel the other side. So when I look back at those years that I was so busy, I didn't feel the grief. I didn't do negative emotions. Like if it made my hands sweaty and my pit in my stomach go, I just didn't do anything like that. But I also didn't feel the joy. You know, and now Like you saw me when you pulled up today, I'm looking at the sky because I look up. Like the joy that I see in blue skies and finding something cool on a building, I never felt any of that because I had such a tight rein on my emotions. I couldn't because I was so afraid to open that door. So grief is with me every day. And some days I will hear a song and I'll have a little cry over something. And some days it'll make me laugh incredibly because I'm remembering a great memory. But it has to be part of life because everything, you know, everything's seasonal. So everything, you know, comes, grows, and then dies. I mean, that's just the circle of life. And it's part of it. You know, and grief's got a really bad name. And yeah, sometimes it totally sucks. You know, when we lose somebody, to have to deal with that period right after, but it's still a necessity. And I know what it's like when you don't deal with it, and let me tell you, you don't feel anything. My friend Anne used to say, you can't cherry pick your emotions. And you can't. It's all or nothing. You know, and for people to, like, grief is the interesting how, oh, you should be over that now. Like, give me a break. Grief is not something you're ever over with. I believe it settles in your body. And at times it'll come up over different things. But it also reminds me of how amazing things can be.
So this all came up through that program that you took?
That was the big door opener. That was the
it's because you had to share your story? Is that why?
It was part of it. So you had the whole thing was about finding his name is Dov Barron, and he calls it your full Monty story. So it's about it's a speaker's training. Like I learned amazing things about speaking, but it's about finding your core story. So it's a series of questions. And when I had no idea what mine was going to be, and I was really surprised when it came out, and I was losing the babies, and I didn't know that. And the shame that I attached to that.
So it peeled off.
Oh yeah, because
layers.
It's an onion, right? And that just opened the door to so much. And in the last 3 years, there's been a lot of challenges. You know, losing my brother was really hard. That was probably the biggest one. And then last year, would I have changed any of it? I kind of wish I could have changed this part. But if I could change any of it and not be where I am today, I wouldn't. And even my brother would understand that because my brother was all about freedom. That's what his whole life was about. He was in the Army and the Navy. And that's what I have now. I have the freedom. Because back then I was putting one foot in front of the other, just doing whatever I thought was right. It had nothing to do with what made my heart sing. You know, I ask clients, what makes your heart sing? And they just look at me. And I know, okay, we need to do a little bit of work.
It's funny how a lot of people don't know.
No. And I'm lucky enough that I
shouldn't say funny. It's sad.
Sad. I'm lucky enough that I can do it as my career. And I'm not saying to people, you need to find what makes your heart sing and quit your job. I'm not saying that. But if your job is not it, let's find out what it is so when you're not working. You know, it's...
Yeah, that fulfillment.
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, I can't imagine, oh my God, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back for anything. I wouldn't go back for anything as much as I wish my brother was here. But he would have he would have totally got it. You know, and on the days last year, you know, there were a few days I didn't want to get out of bed. I got to be completely honest. I had little voices in my head, and he'd be sitting on my shoulder saying, get up, go talk to somebody who needs your help. Right, go do something.
So what would you say if someone was dealing with a very difficult situation in their life right now? They're dealing with a loss. Let's just say loss of some kind, because it's typically that's where grief comes from, right? So if they're because I'm kind of like you, when something happens, I tend to distract myself and ignore them. Like, this is how I deal with it. I'm bigger than the problem. That's how I always say. I'm always bigger than the problem. But there is that part where you do need to process it, like you say, and kind of address it rather than run away from it, because it's like putting your head in the sand, right? And kind of by ignoring it.
Elephant under the rug.
The elephant under the rug, or the head in the sand. Like, what would you say? Like, you already mentioned a few things, like, you know.
Here's some practical tips.
Yes,
that I developed.
Yes, that would be great.
Because I do truly believe you have to deal with it. Before I give you practical tips, I'm going to say, the day I had my biopsy, I had a radiologist. Her name was Dr. Jenny, and she said to me, "You need to know that you did not cause this." She said it to me a few times, and she made me look her in the eyes and hear her. And I get that. I did not cause my breast cancer. Do I think that I allowed it? Yeah. I think of all the years not dealing with the emotions, not dealing with what was going on in my body emotion-wise. Something has to give, Francesca. And you know that as well as I do. You know, either your head will explode or you'll get sick or something has to give. So you do need to face these emotions. Some of the really easy tips, and I know these are not easy, but one is sit. Just stop. Sit in a comfy chair. Turn off the TV. If you're a music person and music is not an escape for you, like music is very, helps me get in touch with my emotions, I will play music and feel it in your body. Because grief hurts. You will feel it in your body.
So just allow it.
Just
allow it to happen.
Stop fighting. And I know a lot of the reason people won't go into that situation is they're afraid of the other side of it. They're afraid that they'll sit and they'll cry and they'll have the really ugly cry and they'll go down. We like to call it to the bottom, and they won't come back up. You know, and I remember pulling the car over and having to have the ugly cry, and I was afraid to go there for a long time over the cancer thing because it was so big, and I was so afraid to let out those emotions and cry. I was afraid I wouldn't stop, but you will, right? And the idea of it is always worse than the actuality of it.
So it's a transition.
Oh, it's a total transition. It's a total.
I think a lot of people think of grief like a place where you end up getting stuck, but I think that's based on your own mindset. Right? You don't have to stay there. You just have to go through the process and get it over with.
And the one thing you can do is if you're really apprehensive about it and you're afraid, set a timer. So say, I'll give myself an hour. Right? So sit in your chair.
You make yourself an appointment
with
grief. Feel in the body.
Absolutely. Set a timer so it goes off. And what you do when that comes, if you're not finished and you're okay with where you're not okay with where you are, but you're okay with continuing it, you can. But if you're done and you're afraid and you need to shift up, get up. And that's when I say put on the dance music and dance. Because you know your psychology follows your physiology. So dance it off. Because you can't stay in that place all the time. Right? I know quite a few people in the personal development world that think you're not doing the work if you're not sad. You're not doing the work if you're not processing all the time. But you know what? You can be doing personal development work and still be happy. And that's the difference. That you can't stay in it. You know, if I have a hard mentor session with my mentor, he'll never let me leave his office feeling down and stuck in it. He makes sure I feel, good about the session before I leave. We'll do whatever it takes to bring me back up. You know, most coaches out there know in, business life, it's a process. So you go in, you do a little bit of the digging, you do a little bit of the heavy lifting, and then you always end on top. Same thing with grief. You can't stay in it all the time. So you have to bring yourself out of it. And if you're not sure how, set the timer and have some dance music. The happy song. No one can not dance to the happy song. Right?
Okay, so was your trip to Norway your dance? Can you share about that? How did that happen? Because it seemed to be so sudden. All of a sudden, she's in Norway. What is she doing in Norway?
What I realized when all this started, I realized I needed milestones to look forward to. Because when you hear the word cancer, the one thing it takes away is it tries to take away your hope. But for me, it took away my vision of the future. So I've always been a very goal-oriented person. I love doing my goals at the beginning of the year. I love, making the pathway to get it. I lost all of that with this. But I realized I had to have something to look forward to. So I broke it into small chunks. So in the fall, I went to Austin and spoke at the eWomen's chapter with Grace in October, which was amazing. Then I made a second one, and I went to a conference in California in January. And my best friend, who I met a few years ago through Ascentive. His name is Christian, and he lives in Oslo. And he is my bestie. We were Vikings in a former life, I think. And we talk on Skype every Sunday. And I said to Christian, I want to come to Norway. And he said, okay. So I kind of, that was in January, and I thought, And then come March or April, I thought, I'm going to Norway. So I'm not a really great flyer. So I looked at the options, and the shortest one was a 7-hour. It was from Vancouver to Reykjavik, Iceland, and then Iceland to Oslo. And I thought, you can have a free stopover on the way back. And I'm a North Atlantic girl because I grew up in Newfoundland. So I told Christian I booked 3 weeks. We picked the dates so they worked. And for the first time, for as long as I can remember, I went away by myself to a non-business day. I didn't know anybody except Christian, thank goodness. I was really, at the airport, I actually had to have the whole little conversation with myself of, okay, I'm a big girl. I'm in my 40s. I can do this, right? I can do this. I can do this. And then but they don't speak English. And I'm like, no, I can do this. Because with the diagnosis, I got a few more anxieties. And one of them was doing things on my own, which is something I never had a problem doing with.
And you faced it.
I faced it. And I got on that plane, and I sprung for the upgrade and went to Norway. And it was amazing. And I didn't realize how much stress I carried last year so Christian gave me his little flat, and he stayed with his girlfriend. So I had this lovely little flat that had a beautiful little outdoor area. And apparently the 10 days I was in Norway in Oslo were the best 10 days of the summer.
They were waiting for you.
And I just had some downtime. Christian and he let me do what I wanted, and then we'd go have lunch, and we'd meet up with his girlfriend, and we'd have dinner with their friends, and we saw the city, and they took me to a fjord and the mountains, and it was really awesome to have that time out of your life, because so many of us travel for work. You travel a lot as well, but it's always work stuff. When do we really honestly go on a vacation? And because of the time difference, I couldn't really work because it was 9-hour time difference. The one thing I did do, though, I have a deal with my youngest son that whenever I'm away, that I will call every day. And I called every single day except for 2. And one day I was flying to Iceland, so I couldn't call. And the other day I called and didn't talk to him because he was in the pool. So I made good on my promise, which was great, and it was amazing. And I would highly recommend anybody do it. I did Oslo, I saw Stockholm, did a little bit of Norway, and then I did a little bit of Iceland, and I will do it again. It was amazing.
Travel helps if you can. Travel helps if you can.
Yeah, and I'm not so much a beach girl. I'd much rather go to Iceland than Thailand. Right, it's just the way I am. But travel helps, and having something to look forward to. And I was thinking about this the last couple of days, because right now I have something the end of November, but that's it. So I'm thinking I want to maybe take my boys to Hawaii in January or February or something. So
there is a beach side to you.
There is, with the kids there is, right? I'm not as long as it's not really hot. But it really helps have something to look forward to when there's so much upheaval.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information in a little short time.
Yeah.
But life is an adventure. And I have, it's about living, and it's interesting. I don't like the word survivor.
I don't either. I'm so glad you brought that up for any reason. I don't like the word survivor. I think survivor should only apply for a short period of time, but there needs to be a next step, regardless of what you're surviving, regardless of what that is.
I had a meeting last week, and we were talking about I'm getting ready to relaunch my website, and I had a PR meeting, and we were talking about it, and she said something, and I looked at her and said, "Don't ever refer to me as a cancer survivor." And I'm not the only one. Quite a lot of us don't like that. I haven't quite found the right word, but that one I don't like. And I do know that every day I get up, and some days I still, are still that struggle, but for the 99% of the time, I am thankful for every day. At night before I go to bed, I have a gratitude journal, and that's really important to me, because who knows how long we're going to be here, and I want to be thankful for everything I have, and I want to say to other people, it's okay to have challenges. It's okay to be in whatever's going on, but deal with it, right? And if you can't do it alone, reach out, because so many people are just waiting to hear that you need a hand, and they will be there. They just don't know. They honestly just don't know.
So reach out for help.
Absolutely.
Don't do it alone.
Oh, no. And, strong women, that's a big challenge because we were told to be strong, right? We fix things, we take care of things, we do everything. It's not for our benefit anymore.
Well, you've been amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm so grateful that you came. And if our audience wants to reach you, where can they find you? You just said you're redoing your website. By the time this broadcast, your website will be up.
It's still there. It's just being rebranded. So my website is www.gina.best. I got really lucky with the last name.
That is super.
Yeah. So www.gina.best is my website. My phone number's there. My email's there. Anybody who would ever like to talk, need anything, just reach out. I'm truly just a phone call away.
And there you have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can I have a hug?
Absolutely.
Hey, small business owners. We've prepared a transformational event for you. The Magnificent You Women's Conference is designed to support you in your business growth journey. Most conferences focus on content and not much action. This conference will give you content from 10 amazing local and international speakers, but also place great emphasis on actions to be taken after the conference. We want you to ignite that one thing that will change everything. Excited? Get your tickets today.